The first crack in the apex bastion's hull appeared at precisely 0300 hours, standard galactic time. It was small at first, a barely perceptible fracture in the seamless, self-repairing nanite plating that had stood impenetrable for nearly 2 centuries. The Braggon Dominion's greatest fortress, engineered to withstand the worst weapons of the known universe, had never suffered so much as a dent in all its years of operation. Its walls had repelled entire armadas, shrugged off planetary bombardments, and rendered siege warfare obsolete. Which is why Supreme Bastion Warden Xiphos 9 nearly crushed his own command console in disbelief when the first alert came through. "Clarify the report," he demanded, his voice a calculated tremor of fury and incredulity. The command chamber, a vast expanse of obsidian black metal and holographic displays, was usually a place of cold efficiency. But now his officers, each a battle-hardened Braggon, their exoskeletal plates polished to military perfection, shifted uncomfortably under his gaze. No one wanted to be the one to repeat the impossible. Finally, one of the junior officers spoke up. His voice was hesitant, as if he himself couldn't quite believe what he was saying. "External breach detected in subsection 12, Warden. The hull integrity matrix is failing to self-repair." Xiphos 9 clenched 2 of his 4 fists. "What weapon was used?" A pause. "That is unclear, Warden." Xiphos 9 narrowed his 6 crimson eye stalks, then strode forward, his heavy, clawed feet clanking against the metallic floor. He accessed the live feed from the affected sector, expecting to see the remnants of some unimaginable new superweapon, some terrifying force capable of challenging Braggon engineering. What he saw instead made no sense at all. A single human-built spacecraft was wedged against the hull, an outdated civilian cargo hauler by the look of it, its exterior patched with haphazard repairs. Through the ship's open airlock, he could see a handful of humans, each clad in mismatched, non-uniform spacesuits. One of them, a broad-shouldered bearded man, was hunched over the hull, wielding what looked like. Xiphos 9 zoomed in. A power drill. A human was drilling into the apex bastion's hull with a hand tool. Another human, a shorter female with a bandolier filled with what Braggon sensors identified as adhesive rolls, duct tape, according to their database, stood next to him, gesturing impatiently. "I told you, Jace, you're hitting the wrong section. The hull here has redundant power conduits. Cut into that, and the whole repair system goes nuts trying to fix itself before you even get through." Jace, the bearded man, paused, scratched the top of his helmet, and nodded. "Right. So, a little more to the left, yeah. Yeah. Right over." Jace repositioned his drill and pressed the trigger. The high-pitched whine of metal being stripped away rang through the vacuum of space. Inside the command chamber, Xiphos 9's mind struggled to comprehend what he was seeing. The bastion's hull was designed to withstand antimatter bombardments, plasma torpedoes, even direct collision with celestial debris. And yet, here was a human, treating it like a cheap bulkhead panel on a backwater freighter. What are they doing?" Xiphos 9's voice was barely above a whisper, his horror evident. A nearby officer hesitated before responding. "Sir, they appear to be exploiting a flaw in the self-repair protocols. The nanite plating prioritizes regrowth over reinforcement in certain sections. If they disable the local repair grid before cutting in, they can remove plating faster than the system can react." Xiphos 9's claws dug into the control panel, leaving deep gouges. "And how, exactly, did a bunch of primitive scavengers discover this flaw before we did?" No one had an answer. Meanwhile, on the outer hull, the humans continued their work with alarming efficiency. "All right, folks," the short woman, call sign Fix, grinned at the datapad in her gloved hands. "Looks like we're ahead of schedule. Jace, prep the next section. Elias, how's the network interference looking?" A new voice crackled through their comms, male, thickly accented. "Give me another 2 minutes, Fix. I've got about half their security grid thinking we're a scheduled maintenance crew. Don't know how long that'll hold, though." Fix smirked. "Elias, you're a miracle worker." Inside the apex bastion, Xiphos 9 was rapidly losing patience. "Activate countermeasures. Deploy internal security forces. Sir, if we activate defenses now, we risk." "I do not care." Xiphos 9's bellow echoed through the chamber. "I want those vermin eliminated immediately." Across the fortress, automated defense turrets powered up, scanning for intruders. Plasma sentries took position in key corridors. Security drones primed their weapons. Then, everything went dark. Xiphos-9's heart slammed against his carapace. What just happened? The technician responsible for security hesitated. It appears, sir, they've overridden our security network. How? They used an ancient industrial firmware patch. Sir, they're bypassing our proprietary systems with outdated civilian software. Xiphos-9's eye stalks quivered in barely contained rage. The most advanced military security system in the Braggon Dominion, crippled by human factory software. He turned back to the feed. The humans were inside. Jace, Fix, and Elias moved through the maintenance corridors as if they owned the place. The towering walls, the dim red lighting, the sheer scale of the bastion's inner defenses, none of it fazed them. "All right, kids," Fix announced, tapping at her datapad. "We're officially in the belly of the beast. Next stop, the vault." Elias sighed. "You do realize we're probably about to have a small army sent after us, right?" Fix smirked, patting the roll of duct tape at her side. "Then let's make them regret it." In the command chamber, Xiphos-9 seethed. "Deploy every available soldier," he snarled. "I want those pests exterminated." The fortress trembled as thousands of Braggon troops mobilized. Fix checked her datapad one last time, then looked up at Jace and Elias. "Well," she said, grinning, "I think they just noticed us." Jace cracked his knuckles. "Took 'em long enough." Elias adjusted his rifle. "So, what's the plan when they send the big guns?" Fix ripped off a piece of duct tape and grinned. "We make them look really stupid." The alarms blared through the apex bastion, their shrill, oscillating tones shaking the very foundations of the fortress. Red emergency lights pulsed in time with the warning klaxons, bathing the metal corridors in an ominous glow. Every Braggon soldier within 100 sectors had been mobilized, their weapons primed, their commands clear: hunt down and eliminate the human intruders immediately. Deep within the fortress, Fix, Jace, and Elias moved quickly, navigating the labyrinthine maintenance corridors with practiced ease. Elias tapped at his wrist-mounted console, his expression darkening. "All right, good news first. I've still got partial control over their security feeds. Bad news, I just lost access to their drone deployment system, which means we've got about," he glanced at a flickering screen, 30 heavily armed, highly aggressive Braggon soldiers heading this way. Jace let out a low whistle. "That's, not ideal." Fix didn't slow her pace, weaving through the narrow corridor as she consulted her datapad. "Nah, just means we stick to the plan. Phase 2 was always going to be the fun part." Elias rolled his eyes. "Your definition of fun concerns me." Fix grinned. "That's why it works." Jace gestured toward an upcoming intersection. "All right, which way?" Fix pulled up a rough schematic of the bastion. "Left. Then we hit the security relay hub and make some modifications." Elias gave her a skeptical look. "Modifications?" Fix tapped her bandolier of duct tape. "Gonna make their entire security grid play against them." Elias sighed. "Why do I feel like this involves duct tape?" Jace finished. Fix smirked. "Because you're finally learning, my dude." Supreme Bastion Warden Xiphos-9 loomed over the central command console, his 6 crimson eye stalks locked onto the main security feed. The humans were still moving deeper into the fortress, unhindered. It was insulting. "They're making a direct path toward the security relay hub," one of the officers reported. "They're trying to access our network from within." Xiphos-9 growled. "Send the Dreadguards." A murmur rippled through the command chamber. Even among Braggans, the Dreadguards were infamous. Cybernetically enhanced, ruthlessly efficient, and armed with weapons powerful enough to reduce most intruders to molecular mist, they were the true last line of defense. But the Warden was taking no chances. "Seal off the security hub," he ordered. "Lock down all doors. Flood the surrounding corridors with lethal radiation if you have to. I will not allow these pests to embarrass us further." "Yes, Warden." On the screens, the squad of heavily armored Dreadguards moved with terrifying speed, their movements precise, their plasma rifles primed. The humans were about to learn the true meaning of fear. Fix, Jace, and Elias reached the security relay hub without resistance. The room was massive, filled with glowing consoles and towering data cores pulsing with raw energy. The Dominion's entire security grid ran through this chamber. Jace gave a low whistle. "All right, so what exactly is the plan here? We flipping some switches? Overriding some codes? Maybe a bit of subtle hacking?" Fix set her pack down and grinned. "Oh, Jace. Sweet, simple Jace." She pulled out a massive roll of duct tape. Jace and Elias stared. Elias pinched the bridge of his nose. "Please tell me you're not serious." Fix ignored him, already moving to the nearest control panel. She yanked open a maintenance hatch, exposing a series of delicate fiber-optic cables and power relays. Then she started taping. Jace crossed his arms. "You do realize that's the most expensive, high-tech security system in the galaxy, right?" Fix nodded. Elias sighed. "And your plan is to duct tape it into submission?" Fix looked at him with absolute confidence. "Yes." Elias exhaled sharply. "I hate that this is probably going to work." Jace tilted his head. "Okay, but how?" Fix grinned as she continued working. "See, Braggans over-engineer everything. This whole system relies on thousands of redundant failsafes, right?" Jace nodded. "Yeah." Fix gestured at the cables. "Well, when all those failsafes start getting conflicting signals, they go into emergency mode. And you know what happens when a hyper-intelligent security system goes into emergency mode." Jace and Elias exchanged glances. Fix smirked. "It reboots. And when it reboots, we own it." Jace blinked. "That's genius." Fix snapped off another strip of tape. "Damn right it is." Elias glanced at his console. Guys. We've got incoming." Jace straightened. "How bad?" Elias' face darkened. "Dread guards." Fix didn't even look up. "Give me 60 seconds." Jace unholstered his sidearm. "You've got 30. The heavy clang of armored boots echoed through the corridors outside. Elias pulled out a modified EMP grenade. "If they get through that door." Fix yanked down one last cable and slapped a final strip of tape over the panel. The entire room flickered. The emergency lights strobed wildly as the security systems struggled to process what had just happened. A deep, mechanical whir filled the chamber. Fix grinned. "And there it is." Elias checked his console. His eyes widened. "You actually did it." Jace peered at the screen. "What am I looking at?" Elias smirked. The entire security system just reset. Outside the room, the dread guards reached the sealed blast door. One of them raised a fist, ready to breach. When the door suddenly opened. Before the Braggon soldiers could react, the security turrets in the corridor whirred to life, now targeting them. Xiphos 9 watched in stunned horror as his own fortress's defenses turned against his elite soldiers. The turrets opened fire, plasma bolts ripping through the Dreadguard's armor. The once impenetrable security grid was now a weapon in the humans' hands. And the intruders? They strolled out of the security relay hub completely unchallenged. Fix adjusted the straps on her pack as they moved through the newly deactivated corridors. All right, that should keep them occupied for a while. Elias was still staring at his wrist console, shaking his head in disbelief. "I'm not gonna lie. I have no idea how that worked." Fix patted her bandolier of duct tape. "Because you underestimate the power of applied engineering." Jace grinned. "So what's next?" Fix checked her datapad. "Vault's a few levels down. We move fast, we get what we came for, and then we get the hell out." Elias exhaled. "Assuming we don't run into more Dreadguards." Jace cracked his knuckles. "Then we improvise." Fix smirked. "That's exactly what they're not ready for." Far above them, in the command chamber, Xiphos 9 slammed a fist against the console, sending cracks splintering through its surface. "These humans," he snarled, his voice a tremor of barely contained fury. "They are making a mockery of us." He turned to his officers, his eye stalks blazing. "No more games. Prepare everything. They do not leave this fortress alive." Fix checked her datapad again. "All right, folks," she muttered. "Final phase." Jace grinned. Elias sighed. And the apex bastion? It was about to have a very bad day. The apex bastion had never known chaos. For 2 centuries, it had stood as the impenetrable heart of the Braggon Dominion's might, an unbreakable fortress that turned away all threats, crushed all sieges, and mocked the concept of infiltration. Its walls had withstood the onslaught of entire fleets. Its defenses were considered flawless. Now, the mighty fortress was tearing itself apart, because a handful of humans had duct-taped its security systems into submission. Xiphos 9 was livid. The Supreme Bastion Warden stormed across the command chamber, his 6 crimson eye stalks darting between flickering tactical displays. The situation was unraveling with horrifying speed. His own security forces, his dreadguards, his elite, were being cut down by automated turrets that should have been under his control. Entire wings of the fortress had gone dark, locked into an emergency lockdown cycle that not even his best technicians could override. And the humans, they were still advancing. "They are nearing the vault," one of his officers reported, their voice quivering. "If they breach it—" "They will not," Xiphos 9 snarled. "Reroute all forces to the lower sector. Seal every corridor leading to the vault. And override the lockdown. I want our drones online." "But sir, the system—" "Do it." The officer scrambled to obey. Xiphos 9 turned back to the tactical displays, his claws digging into the console. He had underestimated these creatures once. He would not make that mistake again. The humans thought themselves clever, but they would soon learn the truth. No one escaped the apex bastion. Fix, Jace, and Elias ran full tilt down the corridor, alarms blaring in their wake. "Welp," Elias huffed, "I think we may have pissed them off." "You think?" Jace shouted, barely ducking as a turret exploded behind them. "What gave it away?" Elias tapped frantically at his wrist console. "Oh, I don't know. The fact that every drone in this damn place just came back online." Fix skidded to a stop at an intersection, yanking open a maintenance panel and slapping down a fresh strip of duct tape. "Elias, how long can you jam 'em?" Elias winced as his screen flickered. Depends. How long do you want to live?" Fix grinned. 5 minutes ought to do it." Elias swore under his breath, fingers flying across the interface. "Fine. But if I die, I'm haunting you." The lights flickered. Somewhere, deep in the fortress, 100 security drones suddenly lost their targeting directives. Fix clapped Elias on the shoulder. "You're a gem, buddy. Let's go." They sprinted down the corridor, Jace checking the map on Fix's datapad. "We're close. 2 more bulkheads and—" The floor shook. A deep, guttural thud reverberated through the walls. The sound of something massive being deployed. Elias paled. That's new." Jace narrowed his eyes. "That sounded like—" Before he could finish, the corridor ahead of them imploded. The walls ripped apart, metal screaming as it was wrenched open from the inside. From the gaping hole in the corridor, a Titan-class Braggon enforcer stomped forward. Its chassis gleamed in the flickering red light, a walking fortress of reinforced duranium plating and redundant shielding. Its arms, each the size of a human vehicle, ended in multi-barreled plasma cannons powerful enough to punch through starship hulls. The thing's optics glowed like twin suns, scanning the humans with cold, mechanical precision. Jace let out a slow whistle. "Okay. That's definitely new." Fix exhaled. "Well, that complicates things." The Enforcer's cannons spun to life, energy surging to full charge. Jace's hand darted to his holster. "Ideas." Fix reached into her pack, yanked out a thermal charge, and lobbed it straight at the Enforcer's face. The explosion rocked the corridor, but the Enforcer barely flinched. Its shielding absorbed the blast, dispersing the energy harmlessly across its armor. Elias groaned. "Yeah, figured that wouldn't work." The Enforcer locked onto them, plasma bolts screaming down the corridor. The humans dove for cover as the walls melted under the barrage. Fix tapped furiously at her datapad. "Okay, new plan." Jace peeked out from behind cover. "If it involves more duct tape, I'm gonna—" "Shut up and let me work." Fix's fingers flew across her screen, her eyes darting between lines of stolen code. Elias ducked as another blast melted a chunk of the floor. Fix. Not to rush you, but we're about to die." Fix grinned. Not today. She hit execute. The Enforcer froze. Its cannons, mid-charge, sputtered out. Its towering frame shuddered, its optic sensors flickering wildly. Jace's eyebrows shot up. What did you do? Fix smirked. Overloaded its targeting buffer. Elias blinked. You crashed it. Yup. Jace grinned. Oh, I love that. Fix grabbed his arm. No time for high fives, we run. They sprinted past the glitching Enforcer, heading for the final blast door. Xiphos 9 stared at the screen, seething. His Enforcer unit, his unstoppable war machine, was standing motionless, frozen in place like a malfunctioning service drone. These humans, they weren't just intruders. They were mocking him. His claws trembled with fury. I want the vault reinforced. Deploy. An alert flashed across his screen. Xiphos 9's breath caught in his throat. Vault access override detected. His eye stalk snapped toward the main security feed. There, in front of the vault's reinforced entrance, stood 3 humans, grinning like they had just won a lottery. The last layer of security, a biometric scanner linked to his own DNA, had been bypassed. Xiphos 9 barely had time to process the shock before Fix lifted a detonator and gave him a cheeky salute. Then she pressed the button. The vault door detonated. Inside, stacked floor to ceiling, were the Dominion's greatest secrets, classified intel, prototype weapon schematics, priceless artifacts. And, at the center of it all, the very thing they had come for. Jace stepped forward, lifting the neural keystone, an ancient Braggon relic that supposedly housed the codes to Dominion war fleets. He turned to Fix and Elias. Well, that was easy. Elias gave him a look. Easy. Fix laughed. Come on, let's move before they... The floor shook. Fix's grin faltered. That was a lot of footsteps. Elias checked his scanner. His face went pale. Jace grimaced. Oh, what now? Fix exhaled. Well, she muttered, I think we just triggered the entire Braggon army. The fortress roared as hundreds of soldiers converged on their position. Fix looked at her team, cracked her knuckles, and smirked. All right, boys. She ripped off a fresh strip of duct tape. Let's get stupid. The fortress was falling apart. Not literally, yet, but Supreme Bastion Warden Xiphos 9 could feel the inevitability of collapse creeping in like a viral infection. The security grid was compromised. The Apex Bastion's automated defenses were either disabled, turned against its own soldiers, or somehow, incomprehensibly, duct-taped into irrelevance. The neural keystone, one of the most critical artifacts in the Dominion's possession, was now in human hands. And to make matters worse, the humans weren't running. They should have been panicking, desperately fleeing for their lives. But as the bulkhead surrounding the vault opened and an entire army of Braggon soldiers charged in, the 3 human intruders grinned. Xiphos 9 didn't understand. And that terrified him. All right, we've got maybe 2 minutes before this gets really messy, Elias muttered, his fingers dancing over his wrist console. Fix cracked her knuckles. Plenty of time. Jace slung the neural keystone over his back and exhaled. So, tell me you've got a way out of this. Fix smirked. Way out. Buddy, we're about to turn this place into a carnival. She yanked open a control panel, revealing a tangled mess of high-voltage wires, redundant data conduits, and Dominion override nodes. In her other hand, she held the deadliest tool in her arsenal, a roll of duct tape. Elias paled. Fix. No. Not again. Jace's eyes widened. Oh, she's gonna do it. Fix was already working, tearing strips of tape and slapping them over crucial nodes, bridging connections that were never meant to be bridged. Sparks crackled. Lights flickered. The fortress's emergency control systems panicked. Across the bastion, chaos erupted. Xiphos 9 watched in horror as his command console lit up with catastrophic errors. System failure detected. Reactor safeguards overridden. Automated defenses in error mode. Gravity generators set to randomization. What did they do? He roared. A nearby officer stammered, Sir, they've initiated a full system override. The bastion is. The floor beneath them vanished. For exactly 2.3 seconds, gravity ceased to exist. Officers, drones, command consoles, everything lifted into the air, tumbling in chaotic slow motion. Then, just as suddenly, gravity reversed, slamming them all against the ceiling. The command chamber erupted in screams. Xiphos 9 flailed, his claws scraping at the metal. Stabilize the... Gravity switched again. Inside the vault, Fix whooped as the first wave of Braggon soldiers stumbled, their bodies yanked upward before crashing down like confused ragdolls. Jace grabbed a bulkhead to steady himself. You just turned their fortress into a zero-G pinball machine. Fix grinned. Sure did. Elias struggled to hold onto a nearby support beam, groaning. I hate you both. The soldiers tried to recover, but the fortress was against them now. Turrets misfired at random angles, drones spun uncontrollably, and the gravity shifts turned tactical formations into flailing heaps of armored bodies. Fix wiped imaginary dust off her hands. All right, boys. Let's go home. In the command chamber, Xiphos 9 was losing what remained of his patience. His officers were useless, tumbling through the air like stunned hatchlings. His fortress was in shambles. And now, his sensors indicated that the humans were... They're headed for the hangar. One of his officers, pinned against the far wall, gasped, Sir, they're stealing one of our ships. No. Xiphos 9 clawed his way toward an emergency console, slamming his fist against it. Activate the lockdown. Seal the hangar. Blow them out of the sky if you have to. In the hangar, Jace powered up a stolen Dominion assault craft while Fix and Elias scrambled into the cockpit. Fix shouted over the alarms. All right, engines are hot, shields are up, what's stopping us? Elias checked the console. The giant hangar doors. They're locked down. Jace grimaced. Fix tapped her chin. Elias, remember that override trick we used on their security grid? Elias groaned. Please don't say what I think you're about to say. Fix pulled a final strip of duct tape from her bandolier, holding it up like a holy artifact. Elias buried his face in his hands. I hate everything. Fix grinned and slapped the tape onto the ship's override panel. Every single hangar door in the fortress opened simultaneously. In the command chamber, Xiphos 9 let out an inhuman shriek as his fortress's final line of containment failed. Across the bastion, dozens of hangar bays depressurized at once. Fighters, gunships, maintenance crafts, all of them were yanked into the void, spinning uncontrollably as the emergency bulkheads failed to activate in time. The human stolen ship blasted out of the hangar, rocketing away from the bastion in a streak of blue fire. The warden's eye stalks blazed with fury. Track them. Pursue them. Do not let them escape. On board the stolen ship, the crew laughed hysterically as Fix threw her feet up onto the dashboard. Jace turned in his seat, grinning. All right, Fix. I gotta admit, that was beautiful. Fix wiggled her fingers. What can I say? I've got a gift. Elias, still looking vaguely nauseous, glared at her. I swear, if we ever do this again... Fix tossed him a roll of duct tape. You'll thank me later. Back on the apex bastion, Xiphos 9 stood motionless, shaking with unfiltered rage. His fortress, the unbreakable apex bastion, had been breached, toyed with, and humiliated. By 3 humans. And the worst part, they had made it look easy. The warden let out a slow, seething breath. Humans, he whispered. They are not to be underestimated. Then, scowling, he turned to his trembling officers. Prepare a fleet. We are going after them. But deep in his gut, Xiphos 9 already knew the truth. They had lost. The humans had won. And the apex bastion, the fortress that had never fallen, would never live it down.